Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on Savitri with our beloved Ranga. We are in Book 1, the Book of Beginnings, Canto 3, the Yoga of the King, the Yoga of the Soul's Release. And we are on page 24, beginning with the line, ecstatic oneness.
So, we are on the canto where Sri Aurobindo is talking about Ashwapati. We may remind ourselves that the description given here of Ashwapati could be taken, although Sri Aurobindo does not say that, but it could be taken as biographical of autobiographical even.
Autobiographically, I would think.
Autobiographical of Sri Aurobindo's life.
Yes.
The experiences are certainly autobiographical. There is no doubt about that. But even the description, for instance, he says that he is not a person, an evolutionary being. He uses different words. He says he is a guest in the world. He is a colonist in the world. Okay?
He's self-born.
These are the words he uses. I'll just tell you. So we have to take it in that sense. I'll tell you why. He's a colonist. He's a guest. He's a delegate. Okay? Then he is an inhabitant. He's a tenant. Okay? And a passenger. All these words suggest that he is here in the physical world, not by necessity, like you, me, and me. We are here by necessity because we were in ignorance and our soul has to come back here for evolution. There is no escape for us. Only after liberation and permanent liberation, not an experience of liberation, but permanent liberation, does the soul have the choice of not taking birth again. So when he says that this is what he is, it means his native field is up there. Okay, so very clearly it is, in fact, I remind you, I don't remember the exact words, but Mother says about Sri Aurobindo that he is a direct action from the Supreme. He is a direct action from the Supreme in the world. So, there you are. He is a passenger here only. He is a colonist. He has come and occupied some territory which is not his originally.
From immortality.
That's right. Okay? And he is a delegate. A delegate is one who goes to other country, but his native place is somewhere else. Then, tenant. A tenant doesn't own the house. He comes here as a guest and goes back. So all these words suggest that Ashwapati is a denizen or an inhabitant of the higher worlds come down here. And the description of the yoga is Sri Aurobindo's yoga. Okay? So, with this little background, we start now. And Ashwapati's aspiration is answered by the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother consents to take birth through him. So, and that is Savitri. So, Savitri is the Divine Mother taking birth through Ashwapati in the physical world. She has come down into the world for a definite work. And that work is the conquest of death. There are other corollaries, but that is the main work, the conquest of death. The conquest of the laws which are seemingly impossible to break. They are permanent laws that operate. So, with this we go back to, we read now, the first line is, a static oneness and dynamic power. I remind you that there are many ways of reading Savitri. Okay? One is read it as a mantra without understanding. If you understand, well and good, but don't let the mind interfere. This is one way of reading Savitri, or as far as mantric power. But that's not the only way. If you are intellectually minded, you would like to understand the words. That's what we are doing. But somebody else may want to appreciate the beauty of the poetry. So there are so many ways of appreciating and approaching Savitri. Our approach, we have decided, is this. The mantric power you can do at home also, alone. But when we are doing this, we are trying to understand what is philosophy behind and what is the description of the experiences.
Actually, line by line,
Yes.
practically.
That's what we are doing. So I don't think it's illegitimate, but because it helps you to understand what Savitri is saying. But just a rider, you should know, remember this.
A static oneness and dynamic power descend in him. The integral Godhead seals. His soul and body take that splendid stamp. A long, dim preparation is man's life. A circle of toil and hope and war and peace, tracked out by life on matter's obscure ground. In his climb to a peak no feet have ever trod, he seeks through a penumbra shot with flame a veiled reality, half known, ever missed, a search for something or someone never found, cult of an ideal never made real here, an endless spiral of ascent and fall, until at last is reached the giant point through which his glory shines, for whom we were made, and we break into the infinity of God. Across our nature's borderline, we escape into supernature's arc of living light. This now was witnessed in that Son of Force. In him that high transition laid its base. Stop there.
Okay. So, the line before that is, as I said, then is revealed in man the overt divine. And the process is now being described. A static oneness and dynamic power descend in him. The integral Godhead seals. The seals are the oneness and the power.
But he is talking now about man, not about Ashwapati.
No.
Then is revealed in man the overt divine.
Okay.
And he's saying these things happen in man.
But it's very obviously related to him because finally, son of force, he's saying. Later on, it comes to son of force. He's saying in a very general way, man. Okay, it can apply also to man, but this is also what's happening to Ashwapati, because see, finally, in him, that high transition laid its base. So this is not for man. It is definitely referring to Ashwapati. When he's saying man, it can happen to a man also, what is being said here. But it is the highest level because he is talking of dynamic power, he is talking of a giant point. Normal yogis will not it's a giant point.
But he also says we break into the infinity of God.
Yeah.
We, humanity, man.
Yes.
Okay, we can agree to disagree.
That's why this can happen to others also, but not at that highest peak. Okay? In him, that high transition laid its base. So, all these words, son of force, okay, living high transition, giant point, all these things, he has traveled through all these, and that any human being can also have. So he is talking quite definitely about the why should he suddenly, when he is talking about the Ashwapati and the divine is revealed in him, why should he suddenly go back to man? There is obviously a connection. A static oneness and dynamic power descend in him. The integral Godhead seals. Okay? So, the integral Godhead. The normal yogi does not experience the dynamic power always. So it's very clear that he is talking of Ashwapati. His soul and body take that splendid stamp. So he has used the word seals and now he's using the word stamp here. It reminds me of what Champaklal has said to people. He said that anyone who dies here connected with the ashram in Pondicherry, Sri Aurobindo symbol is stamped on his forehead.
Yes. What about in Oroville?
I'll have to look at the exact words that Champaklal has used. But he means the disciples of Mother and Sri Aurobindo here in Pondicherry. I don't think 5 miles makes a difference. And there are people in Auroville who are far superior and much more yogic than many in the ashram. So that's not much of a problem. Descend in him, the integral Godhead seals. His stamp, his soul and body take that splendid stamp. Now he is talking of man, but it also applies to.
Now he's talking of man, no
Yes,
doubt.
but this is also what Ashwapati has gone through. Okay, a long, dim preparation is man's life. A circle of toil and hope and war and peace. The circle is interesting. It later on he uses the word also spiral.
Spiral.
So
yes.
circle and spiral. It's the birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. The constant repetition of this process until the soul is ready for a higher existence. Okay, so a circle. And what is the circle made of? Toil and hope, war and peace, both. These are the experiences he has to go through. Tracked out by life on matters obscure ground. Matters obscure ground is the body and tracked out by life. L cap. So, until you become a mental being, fully a mental being, which is rare, Sri Aurobindo says in the synthesis. The mental being is still being evolved. It is still evolving. It is not yet fully evolved. Matter and life has been evolved fully. The animal life has been evolved. But man is still evolving, he says, very clearly.
And now science has seen that the Big Bang was not the Big Bang.
Yeah. There's so many other things like that. Yeah. So, in his climb to a peak where no feet have ever trod, he seeks through a penumbra shot with flame. A penumbra is a half light. So even when the spiritual planes of consciousness, it is not a full light. In fact, in the level 1 where we are, it is a darkness. It's a half consciousness, but you can call that also a penumbra. A penumbra is a half shadow, half light. Okay, so penumbra shot with flame. Suddenly, the flame comes into his half light. So, a veiled reality, half known, ever missed. This is what he's seeking. He's seeking through the penumbra a veiled reality, half known, ever missed. So it is half known, but it is always being missed in the beginning. A search for something or someone never found. Cult of an ideal, never made real here. Here means in the physical world, level 1. So it is not being done. That has to be done. And that is Sri Aurobindo's ideal. The evolution to the next step. An endless spiral of ascent and fall. Until at last is reached the giant point. The giant point is not this spiritual experience. The giant point must be the supramental. So until that is reached, the spiral will go on.
Yes.
Nothing will ever change here unless the giant point, the supermind, comes down. That's very clear. Until at last is reached the giant point, through which his glory shines, for whom we were made. So all men have been made for that purpose, for the evolution of the supermind here. And we break into the infinity of God. Across our nature's borderline we escape into supernature's arc of living light. I'm taking these two lines together. The nature's borderline is the dividing line just above the normal mind and below the higher mind. That's the first borderline. Because when you go into level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness, there's a complete reversal. So that's a borderline, the first borderline. The second border is between the overmind and the supermind. There's a veiled, a translucent lid that separates them. But the lid here between mind and higher mind is dense, difficult to break through. But the overmind and the supermind, it is translucent. It is not so difficult to break through. Easier to break through if you achieve the overmind. It is easier to break through than this one. So, across our nature's borderline, we escape. In other words, you go on to the spiritual planes of consciousness, the higher mind onwards, into supernature's arc of living light. The light is living. There is also an alliteration there, you can see. This now was witnessed in that sun of force. So there you are. So this is a normal condition of man, but this breaking into the giant point now was witnessed in that sun of force. So what you are saying is right, that this whole passage applies to man in general. And Ashwapati also is taken birth here as a man. So he has undergone all this as a man, but now...
But do you really think he had an ascent and fall? Sri
No.
Aurobindo speaks about ascending slowly and having to redo Savitri, but he doesn't speak of a fall.
No, the fall means you always keep coming back to your normal consciousness.
Well, that's us.
No. Even the avatar has to do that. Savitri says very clearly that there is always a descent into the normal consciousness and then you go back again. But once you have attained a certain level, you don't go back to zero. You don't go back to the ignorance. For instance, you will come back from the element mind to the higher mind. From the overmind to the higher mind. Like that. That's a fall. But there is always this movement. That's also reflected in the word spiral and circle. There's constantly an up and down movement. No one can climb the stairs and go stairs at the first experience. There's always an experience, and that experience has to be brought down here, and then slowly you stabilize yourself in the experience. That's the process. Sri Aurobindo says about the Baroda experience, he achieved the silent mind in one day. Actually, in 3 days, it became stable, but the first day itself, when he made his mind silent, he had the experience of the higher mind. But he could not make that consciousness effective in life for quite long. He could climb there, but as soon as he comes down here into the normal body, the old nature comes back. So that is the fall. It's not a fall into our condition.
Right.
It's a fall into his condition. There's an up and down movement. In fact, in in Synthesis, he says, in a letter to Motilal Roy, he says that I was in Parabrahman consciousness for several hours. Now what does that several hours mean? After that he has come down here again. Mother was in the supramental consciousness for several hours. And then when the clock struck, her consciousness had to come down here again. You remember the experience of the supramental boat?
Yes.
So, this is what you mean by the fall. Not so negative.
Right.
Okay. So, across our nature's borderline, we escape into supernature. So, our normal nature is level 1. We are subject to ignorance. We see division and we think it is real. But when you go to level 2, you start seeing the oneness. And ignorance disappears, ego disappears. So that is supernature. This is nature, that is supernature. Okay? This now was witnessed in that sun of force. So, you are right in that sense that this is, all men have to go through this process of up and down, circle, spiral. And then finally, but now he has reached the giant point. Okay? So, in him, that high transition laid its base. So, that high transition is from the low to the high, that highest point that has laid its base.
Original and supernal immanence, of which all nature's process is the art. The cosmic worker set his secret hand to turn this frail mud engine to heaven use. A presence wrought behind the ambiguous screen. It beat his soil to bear a titan's weight, refining half-hewn blocks of natural strength. It built his soul into a statued God. The craftsman of the magic stuff of self, who labors at his high and difficult plan, in the wide workshop of the wonderful world, modeled in inward time his rhythmic parts. Then came the abrupt, transcendent miracle. The masked, immaculate grandeur could outline, at travail in the occult womb of life, his dreamed magnificence of things to be. A crown of the architecture of the worlds, a mystery of married earth and heaven, annexed divinity to the mortal scheme. A seer was born, a shining guest of time. More?
Yeah. There's a full stop there,
Yeah.
but Mother has chosen the passage for the next line also.
Okay.
She has selected this from then came the abrupt transcendent miracle, ending with for him, mind's limiting firmament ceased above. So she has selected this passage for Savitri painting as well as music. All the passages that she has selected, I'll point out to you.
Ah, wonderful.
And I have marked it out in green here. Because when Sunilda was given the passages for which music was to be made, as cyclo-styled, at that time there was no photocopier. So it was cyclo-styled, the old one, and it was circulated. And I had that with me, my copy. So I had marked it out in my book and I marked it out here also.
Wonderful.
So I'll point out to you. And also she has pointed out one line separately. A presence wrought behind that ambiguous screen. This also she has marked out. So we read the passage now. Original and supernal immanence, of which all nature's process is the art. So original and supernal immanence. Supernal immanence is almost like an oxymoron, because immanence is here.
But it's a heavenly immanence.
So the original and supernal immanence, it came down into him, because that's what he says, the giant point also. Na? And he also says that the static oneness and dynamic power, which are the seals of God, they came down into him. So that's what he means, of which nature's process is the art.
But all nature's process is the art of that supernal immanence.
And art is a revelation of beauty. Art is a revelation of beauty, whether it be painting or architecture or music. It reveals beauty, the hidden beauty which is there. And if you look very carefully, nature is full of beauty. Whether it be flowers or whether it be noble emotions or whether it be the sunset, there's a lot of beauty everywhere. But we turn a blind eye to it, but there is so much of beauty. So the divine art is being expressed through nature. That's what the implication also is.
Yes.
Then, a very interesting phrase, The cosmic worker set his secret hand to turn this frail mud engine to heaven use. Now, he is referring to a cosmic worker. Who is this cosmic worker? It's very interesting. We feel that this physical world is something, and the other world is something totally different. That's not true. All that is here is there repeated in a subtle form on the higher planes. And the subtlest is the highest, but all that we see here are symbols and crude forms of all that is there in the higher planes. So, in fact, there is the overmind is planning the manifestation. So, for planning the manifestation, what do you need? You need workers, you need carpenters, you need masons. So, all these are mentioned in our scriptures. Vishwakarma, he is the one who is the cosmic worker. There is even reference to a carpenter, to a tree. Okay? So, I mean to say that these are not only here, they are representations there and they become realities. So, engineers, doctors, the Ashwins, the twin Ashwins are doctors. They are the physicians to the gods. So, that's what is, that implication is there. The cosmic worker is Vishwakarma. He is the one who does the building of the works. Set the sea, set his secret hand. You can see that there is an alliteration there also. Set his secret hand. To do what? To turn this frail mud engine to heaven use. So, your body is a mud engine. It's a machine. We have repeated that several times. It's a machine and working a most fantastic machine. We don't think of it that way, but if you really think about it, even the heart is working for, in you and me, 85 years without stop it is working. Which electric motor can do that? 85 years. So it's a fantastic machine. But it's a mud machine. So what's the word is using? Mud engine. Okay? And very frail. So, and this has to turn to heaven use. So even his body is being remodeled. That's what he's saying. That's what happened to Surabhu. He was a dark-skinned person. If you compare a picture of his, the mug shot in the Alipur jail, you compare that picture of Surabhu to 1950. A tremendous difference. Complete change. His body, his color was darkish, not even average Indian color, darkish. But afterwards it became absolutely a glowing golden type of color. So that's what he's saying. To turn this frail mud engine to heaven use, a presence wrought behind the ambiguous screen. The ambiguous screen is the body-mind life which is hiding the divinity. But a presence was there which is working. Wrought. Wrought means is a past tense of work. To wrought. The presence was there behind making this work of what, doing what? Turning that body for heavenly use. It beat, another image, it beat its soil to bear a titan's weight. It beat the soil. The soil is again the body, the physical.
And here he capitalizes Titan.
Yes.
Which is very interesting because many times he doesn't capitalize it when he just means immense,
That's right.
grand.
So Titan is a huge, it means here a huge weight. So a divine weight. Refining half-hewn blocks of natural strength, it built his soul into a statued God. See the image. Okay? So, first of all, he's saying that it was this mud which is being made into a statue. Then he's also saying half-hewn rocks he is taking and carving out of it a statued God. So many images he is using to show that in different ways.
And this is autobiographical.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. It built his soul into a statue of God. The craftsman, see again he is referring to the cosmic worker and the craftsman with a sea cap of the magic stuff of self, who labors at his high and difficult plan in the wide workshop of the wonderful world. Note the alliteration in the line. The wide workshop of the wonderful world. Modeled, the craftsman modeled in inward time his rhythmic parts. The rhythmic parts are the lower in the physical world. Everything is rhythm. Okay? Even your heart is beating in rhythm. Your day and night is rhythm. The blood circulation also is in rhythm. It keeps going. So the rhythmic parts are the physical parts. And he is modeling, remodeling all that in inward time. Psychologically, inward time, from there he is hiding behind the screen and making these changes. So, then came the abrupt transcendent miracle. This is where Mother starts the selection. Then came the abrupt transcendent miracle. The masked, immaculate grandeur could outline at travail in the occult womb of life. Occult means secret, not related to occultism. Yeah, secret. Secret womb of life. What did it do? His dreamed magnificence of things to be. Very obviously, he is his ideal of supramentalizing matter. That's what it means. His dreamed magnificence. It's a dream, it is not yet a reality. So, it's something that he had dreamed of as an ideal of things to be. So, that which is the transformation of the physical world. Very clearly, so he is referring to Sri Ranga only. This also is an indication that it is autobiographical.
Yes.
A crown of the architecture of the worlds. A mystery of married earth and heaven. This is the dreamed magnificence. A mystery of married earth and heaven. So, this is again he is using the marriage of earth and heaven, and in many places he has used this image. In God's Labor, the poem God's Labor, he says, I hope to build a rainbow bridge marrying the soil to the sky. The divinization of matter. That's the whole idea. Then also in the Life Divine, the very first chapter, he says, spirit and matter must be married harmoniously. The ascetic is saying, no, they have to divorce. But he says that no, there has to be a harmonious marriage between us. So this image, again and again uses, very clearly indicative of the divine magnificence must reveal itself here in the physical world. His idea of supramentalizing the matter. Okay. A mystery of married earth and heaven, annexed divinity to the mortal scheme. So, the word again, he uses this image very often, annexed. Okay. You have a house and you have an annex, which is a sort of secondary place which is related to the first one. So, he is now in the mortal scheme. He has a body, but divinity has been annexed into it and is coming to his body, divinity. A seer was born, a shining guest of time. There you are. So, he is a guest of time. He is an avatar, if you want, if you can say that. A seer was born, a shining guest of time. He is only a guest. He is actually native place is up there. So he is here now. For him, mind's limiting firmament sees above. For him, mind's limiting firmament, again that borderline, disappeared. So now the divine can come down to the body. The dividing line is broken. We have spoken earlier of nature's borderline. We escape. But now it is being made permanent. That's what it means.
In the griffin forefront of the night and day, a gap was rent in the all-concealing vault. The conscious ends of being went rolling back. The landmarks of the little person fell. The island ego joined its continent. Overpast was this world of rigid, limiting forms. Life's barriers opened into the unknown. Abolished were conceptions, covenants, and striking off subjection's rigorous clause, annulled the soul's treaty with nature's nescience. All the gray inhibitions were torn off, and broken the intellect's hard and lustrous lid. Truth unpartitioned found immense sky room, an Empyrean vision saw and knew. The bounded mind became a boundless light. The finite self mated with infinity. His march now soared into an eagle's flight, out of apprenticeship to ignorance. Wisdom upraised him to her master craft, and made him an arch-mason of the soul, a builder of the immortal's secret house, an aspirant to supernal timelessness. Freedom and empire called to him from on high. Above mind's twilight and life's star-led night, there gleamed the dawn of a spiritual day.
In the griffin forefront of the night and day. Griffin, okay. Now, what is a griffin? It refers to Greek mythology. Lion eagle that drives the goddess of necessity, Ananke. Okay, so this is the lion eagle, and it is he is the vehicle for the goddess of necessity. Goddess of necessity, the laws of the physical world. Necessity, no change, no freedom at all in the physical world. Things are absolutely determined always. So this is Ananke, the goddess who makes sure that there is absolutely the laws that are maintained here properly. So that's a griffin. It's an English word for the lion eagle in Greek mythology. In the griffin forefront of the night and day. So night and day, matter and spirit. A gap was rent in the all-concealing vault. The all-concealing vault is the inconscient. So, Shendra have been able to even go and plunge into the inconscient, because if you don't do that, then you can't change your body. So that's what he is saying. That the gap was rent in the all-concealing vault, then
Torn open.
so that the subconscious itself is being changed. Okay? The conscious ends of being went rolling back. The conscious ends of being went rolling back. Transition from level 1 to level 2. The landmarks of the little person fell. The landmarks of the little person is being the ego. He is describing the ego as a little person. Okay? The landmarks. So, the landmarks, what are the landmarks of the ego? Ignorance, incapacity, suffering. They are the landmarks of the little person. Because when you go to the higher level of consciousness, there is no suffering, there is immortality, there is no death for you. So they are the landmarks of the little person, the ego. Landmarks, you can say, characteristics. He uses different words, this is poetry. So, landmarks is equal to characteristics. The nature of the little person fell. So all those, now that means he is not subject to death, he knows he is immortal, there is no suffering and there is no incapacity. That's what it is. The island ego joined its continent. There you are. Beautiful. The ego is an island, but now it has disappeared and joined the continent. The vastness of the second level. The island ego joined its continent. Overpass was this world of rigid limiting forms. The world of rigid limiting forms, the material world. Level 1, mind, life, body. Life's barriers open into the unknown. Life's barriers, the one that doesn't allow you to go out. Life is limited, body is limited, mind is limited. So these are all barriers. And they are now, they have opened into the unknown. So they have gone. It's another way of saying the island ego joined the continent. Okay. Now, very interesting images again. Abolished were conceptions, covenants. What's a covenant? A covenant is a treaty, a document which lays down the treaty between two parties. Okay? And what's the two parties here? Spirit and matter. Abolished were conceptions, covenants. In other words, the laws of the physical world are cancelled for Ashwapati. And striking off subjection's rigorous clause. So, the covenant is that this world will be a world of darkness, and out of that we will come out. So that's a treaty between spirit and matter. Spirit also speaks of the relation between Purusha and Prakriti, spirit and matter. Okay? So, annulled the soul's treaty with nature's nations. So you can see again, he's saying that the laws of the physical world were conquered for Ashwapati. That's what I'm saying in brief. He is using different words. Abolished the covenants. Striking subjection. They are subject to the laws in the physical world. So those subjection, the clause was struck off. It is not necessary anymore. When man is there normally, he is subject to his ignorance and his limitation. But now for Srirando or Ashwapati, there is no need of suffering. There is no need of incapacity. There is no need of death.
And no subjection to anything.
Yes, that's right. So, striking of subjection's rigorous clause. Not the word rigorous. The laws are very rigorous here. Annulled the soul's treaty with nature's nations. Why is it a treaty? Because the divine himself has agreed to come down here for the adventure. So it's a treaty. Okay, I'll come down here. Okay, that's a treaty. Annulled the soul's treaty with nature's nations. Clear? So, all the great inhibitions were torn off. Inhibition, see? What's an inhibition?
Something that limits us.
Prohibition is, you know what it is. Don't do this. Inhibition, there is a little doubt in yourself. There is inhibition. Okay? Those things are all gone. No doubts about it. And broken the intellect's hard and lustrous lid. Now, what do they mean by this? The intellect is hard, no doubt, but it's not a lustrous lid. So he is referring to the overmind. He is referring to the overmind. So, broken was the intellect's hard and lustrous lid. The supermind has come down into his body. He has experienced it. That's what he's saying. Truth unpartitioned found immense sky room. Okay? Unpartitioned. There is no gap between spirit and matter. And I am talking of matter because he has said very clearly the whole body was remodeled. And here also all the laws have been struck off.
Yes.
So very clearly he is talking of the supermind. Truth unpartitioned found immense sky room. An empyrean vision, empyrean, heavenly, of the heavens. Vision, saw and knew. Okay? The bounded mind became a boundless light. The bounded mind, the limited mind, became a boundless light. Then the last bit also, very, very interesting images. the finite self mated with infinity. Again, he used the word of marriage. Okay, the finite self is now married infinity. Okay, mated with infinity. Now, this is a beautiful line. His march now soared into an eagle's flight. When you are limited, you are walking on the ground. You can't go up. But now he is soaring like an eagle. He is absolutely free. So the march becomes a flight, a soaring. Out of apprentice to ignorance. So, apprentice to ignorance is our condition, the normal human condition. We are an apprentice to ignorance. We are learning in the ignorance. We are an apprentice. So, but that is also cancelled. Out of apprentice. So now he is not an apprentice to ignorance anymore. And made him an arch mason of the soul. So again, arch mason, he is again talking of remodeling and making new creation. He is going back to him, the cosmic worker and the craftsman. So again he is saying, so Vishwakarma and the craftsman, the one who executes the work. Made him arch mason of the soul, a builder of the immortal secret house. So again, builder. So all these are, that's why I said that all these, a mason, a carpenter, all these functions are all coming from above. So don't think that these things are not there at the higher level. Much subtler and much wider. So, a builder of the immortal secret house. An aspirant to supernal timelessness. Freedom and empire called to him from on high. So, he is using the word empire. So freedom is at the level 2. You can experience freedom, but not necessarily empire. Empire, when you go even higher up. In fact, the Sanskrit words are Swarat and Samrat. Swarat is you are master of yourself. At level 2, you can be master of yourself. You know your soul. But Samrat, you are the emperor of a kingdom, of a vast empire. So that's what we use the word when you have the power to make changes in the physical world. That's what he was doing. Okay? So that's why it's autobiographical again. Freedom and empire called to him from on high. Above mind's twilight and life's star-lit night, there gleamed the dawn of a spiritual day. The dawn of the spiritual day is obviously he's seeing the possibility of the sober mind becoming a fact.
Thank you, Rang. Namaste all.